All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll begin today with a call to order and establishment of quorum. I will read a little fast, so apologies, but let's save enough time for the purpose of this meeting and the relevant conversation we all want to have. Upon the receipt of a completed application in response to the request for application issuant pursuant to New York Racing, Pari-Mutuel, Wagering, and Breeding Law, Title 2A, the Commission will establish a community advisory committee for each application received based upon the physical location of the proposed gaming facility. Accordingly, having received a completed application for a project at 686 First Avenue, Manhattan, the Commission has established a community advisory committee for the applicant, Freedom Plaza. By statute, such community advisory committee is to consist of appointees made by the governor, the New York City mayor, the state senator, state assembly member who represent the district where the proposed facility is to be located, and the city council member representing the district where the facility is proposed to be located, in addition to the borough president where the facility is proposed to be located. Members of this community advisory committee have been appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, New York State Senator Kristen Gonzalez, New York State Assembly Member Harvey Epstein, Borough President Mark Levine, and New York City Council Member Keith Powers. Pursuant to New York General Construction Law, Section 41, a quorum shall be established by the presence of 4 members. I will now call the roll of the appointed members. Nicole Silversack, appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul.
Just barely present.
Jennifer Santina is appointed by the New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
Here.
Sandra McKee, appointed by New York State Senator Gonzalez.
Here.
Reshma Patel, appointed by New York State Assembly Member Epstein.
Here.
Celeste Royo, appointed by Borough President Levine.
Here.
We've been informed that the council member Powers appointee is unable to serve on the committee and that he'll be appointing a new member as soon as possible. Let the record reflect that with 5 out of 6 members in attendance constituting a quorum, we are enabled to conduct and transact business. Materials to be discussed at today's meeting have been provided to all members, including Resolution 2501 regarding public access to community advisory committee meetings along with proposed rule text. Resolution 2502 regarding administration of the Freedom of Information Law by a community advisory committee, along with rule text, a copy of the brief introduction and task overview presentation, proposed template schedule, along with a template form to request changes to the application and conduct a final vote, and a copy of Racing Law Section 1321D, which details community advisory committees. Appointment of the CAC chair. Per New York Racing, Pari-Mutuel, Wagering, and Breeding Law Section 1321D37, each CAC at its first meeting shall elect a chair by majority vote. So at this time, I'd like to facilitate this process by opening nominations to serve as chair of this community advisory committee.
I move the nomination of Sandra McKee.
I second the nomination.
Any other nominations? May a motion be made to close nominations? Yeah. So all in favor of Sandra McKee to serve as chair of the Freedom Plaza Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations. Sandra, at this time, you could continue the meeting, or if you would like, I can run through the script. Do you have a preference, or would
If
you
you
like
don't mind, continue. That would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. I will be quick. Brief introduction and task overview. So I am Noreen Siddiqui. I'm going to provide a brief overview of what we are all doing here. I am a consultant with NISTEC, the entity selected following a public bid to serve as the Community Advisory Committee consultant for the New York State Gaming Commission. Founded over a quarter century ago, NISTEC is a not-for-profit consulting company with more than 350 full-time employees operating at multiple locations through New York State, including New York City. We have extensive experience in task force, steering committee coordination, stakeholder engagement, public meeting facilitation, adherence with New York's open meeting law, and large-scale event planning. I want to start by advising that each CAC member has been provided a copy of the completed application submitted by Freedom Plaza in response to the request for applications. If anyone needs assistance to access the material, please let me know and I'll facilitate it. As a reminder, the application materials may contain personally identifiable information and trade secrets, which, if disclosed, would cause substantial injury to the competitive position of the submitting entity. Each CAC member should exercise care to prevent inappropriate or unauthorized disclosure of information. I also want to note that redacted applications and responses have been posted on the Gaming Facility Location Board's website. There is a slide deck overview to go through. I will save that for the end. I think it flows a bit better. So if it's okay, I'll proceed through the rest of this and then we can head into that overview. We'll now consider some best practices resolution. It is my understanding that the New York State Committee on Open Government has created 2 documents to guide best practices to govern for public access to meetings and handling of freedom of information requests. Before us are best practices documents adapted from the Open Meetings Law Model Rules for public bodies and the Freedom of Information Law Model Rules for agencies. All members of this Community Advisory Committee have been provided draft documents in advance. I believe the New York State Committee on Open Government documents are clear and straightforward and should be considered as circulated. Taking them individually now. Open Meetings Law. May I have a motion to adopt Open Meetings Law Model Rules for public bodies as adapted for the Freedom Plaza Community Advisory Committee?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of adopting Open Meetings Law Model Rules for public bodies as adapted for our Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Freedom of Information Law. No, also. May I have a motion to adopt Freedom of Information Law Model Rules for agencies as adapted for the Freedom Plaza Community Advisory Committee?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of adopting Freedom of Information Law Model Rules for agencies as adapted for our Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Consideration of schedule and timeline moving forward. The final matter for today's organizational meeting is to discuss dates, durations, and locations for public hearings. Practically, we need to establish how we would like the presentation to be undertaken and how to receive public comment at the hearings. In 2014, the Gaming Facility Location Board issued a protocol for the conduct of applicant presentations. While not perfectly applicable, it does contain a few items that we should consider adapting for our use. The protocol included language regarding presentation length, use of equipment, other visual aids, and decorum of applicants and public attendees. The Gaming Facility Location Board also in 2014 issued a protocol for the conduct of public comment events. The protocol included language regarding participation, reservations, length, use of equipment, other visual aids, written submissions, and decorum. I can prepare and circulate some of those so we can address them outside of this meeting to decide meeting length and time moving forward. So before we turn it over to the applicant, we give a brief overview of the CAC process and what to expect from here. We do have slides for that, so let me know. I have control now. All right. I promise I'll run through this swiftly. These slides will also be made available online so everyone can peruse them at your own leisure.
I did have a question on, with accessibility, are we going to have language access? Are we going to, for the public meetings?
Yes.
And for people who are impaired in any way? Yeah.
Yes, that's actually addressed in these slides. Any language access needs you have on behalf of your community, you can let us know, whether it's ASL, in person for printed materials, and whichever languages, and we'll facilitate getting those materials either in advance or afterwards with
Yeah, I think at the public meetings, we should have just accessibility for
Sure,
people,
yeah.
right? Because anyone who wants to make public comment should have access.
Yes, yeah. Noted. Thank you. Any other questions before I jump in? I know I've been speaking a mile a minute so far. All right. Okay, so this presentation, basic overview of what this is, why we're here, what we are doing. Yeah, I'm controlling my own slides. Very general background regarding commercial casinos in New York State. So the New York State Constitution was amended in 2012 to allow up to 7 commercial casinos in the state. 4 were established in upstate 2014 and 15 following a competitive process similar to what we're going through now. In 2022, the legislature established a citing process for up to 3 casino licenses, specifically creating a gaming facility location board to issue a request for applications, evaluate, and set up 3 projects for commission licensure. The board issued an RFA in 2023 and currently has 4 members. Vicki Bean as chair, along with Carol Brown, Marion Phillips III, and Greg Reimers with 1 vacancy. The law requires a creation of a project-specific community advisory committee to determine whether the application should advance to the gaming facility location board. Each committee is made up of appointees of the elected officials representing the physical location of the proposed project. Right side? Okay. So how do we end up here? Because on June 27th, 8 applications were received and thus 8 CACs have been formed, listed here. So you have been appointed by an appointing authority to serve on the CAC for Freedom Plaza, located at 686 First Avenue. The committee members here have received the application material for Freedom Plaza, and we expect the applicant will be providing a presentation later on during today's meeting. So what the overall citing process looks like, this is where we are in bold. Each committee, including this one, has until September 30th to complete its work. Those applications that are approved by their committee will then be evaluated by the board via statutory criteria, and the board expects to announce its selections by December 1st, followed by commission licensure consideration by the end of this year. And by statute, the committee is required to review the application, solicit and review public comments, and hold at least 2 meetings. By September 30th, each committee must vote with a 2/3 majority whether the application should be advanced to the gaming facility location board. A failure to hold a vote by September 30th will be deemed a rejection. Practically speaking, I promise I'll move fast, committee members must vote for chair, review the application, attend hearings and meetings, review all public comments, vote in a public meeting before the 30th, September 30th, whether or not the project is going to be advanced to the gaming facility location board. Collectively, all CACs have to operate in accordance with New York State's open meeting law. Again, elect a chair, organizational meeting, hold at least 2 public hearings, review all comments, and then vote. So for the Freedom Plaza application to advance to the board for consideration, majority is 4 committee members must vote in the affirmative. A committee could solicit changes to the bidder's application, but there are limitations for by which this is done. So in discussions with the CAC, a bidder may make a promise, commitment, or obligation. So to be considered, it has to be reduced to writing and filed by the deadline. All of these choices must be definitive so that they're not incumbent on any future state, local discretionary action, unconditioned, etc. A committee may also request the bidder to change or modify their application. It also has to be put in writing and filed by the deadline. Any change or modification that affects the Environmental Quality Review Act cannot be considered. Okay, to advance the application, committee has to notify the board unconditional affirmative vote by the deadline. All materials that are relevant to this have also to be delivered to the board, concurring in the positive determination, signing of the title page. Again, for the purposes of Freedom Plaza's application, 4 members have to vote in the affirmative. So, because there will be a quiz at the end of all of this, 4 members have to vote in the affirmative for the application to be advanced to the board for consideration. Before I go through this slide, I will preface this. It is a proposed schedule. I know we are in the middle of summer. We are dealing with many calendars, many schedules. A suggested schedule is 2 meetings and 2 hearings. The 2 hearings are required by statute. Again, the schedule is not definitive. The vote needs to be in by September 30th. But we can see here a suggested timeline. Public comment. So, and a very important part of this process is the statutory obligation to accept and review comments regarding the project. There is a specific established email for the Freedom Plaza application as seen here. Very aptly, it is Freedom Plaza Public Comment at nystec.com. There's also an address listed for mail in writing. And then, of course, people will have the opportunity to comment in person during one of the scheduled public hearings. Those who do want to submit comment are encouraged to do so soon because of that September 30th deadline. Unredacted application material. So a word of caution again to all committee members. You are tasked with reviewing the complete application, which is why you've been provided with both the redacted and unredacted. You could do a comparison to see the information that was redacted and to compare that way. The unredacted materials contain personally identifiable information, trade secrets, again, which if disclosed could cause substantial injury to the competitive position. So each CAC member should, again, exercise care to prevent any inappropriate, accidental, unauthorized disclosure of this information. And especially in these settings, which is they are a public meeting, being live streamed, open, recorded, we should take care not to discuss any information that is in the unredacted version. We'll not read everything on the slide, but open meetings, law, and logistics. So my colleagues and I are providing logistical assistance to each of the community advisory committees, including securing locations as a collaborative process, technology material support. Again, as required by state law, all meetings and hearings will be open to the public and media, accessible, webcast, and recorded. Locations. So we will work with committee members. They are encouraged to recommend appropriate meeting spaces, make sure they're conducive to hosting public meetings, convenient, accessible venues available via your connections through your appointing authorities, and we welcome suggestions. Proposed events. So organizational meeting, that's what we're doing right now. Elect a chair, that's where we'll discuss scheduling and hear from the applicant. Hearings, again, by statute, the committee needs to hold at least 2 to receive comments from the community, scheduled at convenient times, appropriate locations, and then a final vote meeting. So another meeting similar to this, open to the public, will be scheduled to vote on the project. So, restating what we just went through. Meetings, again, what we're doing right now, and hearings. One thing to note for hearings, hearings are not venues for members of the public to ask questions to the committee and vice versa. They are solely meant to receive and document public comment on the proposal. And language access, as you asked about, Rishma. So translation services and ASL will be made available to those who request it, and we can talk more about details and specifics. Committee members may also request that documents, materials be made in specific languages as is convenient to your communities, be made available either at meetings, hearings, both, so we can discuss more specifics over email. Okay, and a reminder to be mindful of public officers' law obligations and refrain from contact with any applicant or anyone on their behalf except in the context of a public meeting or through the public comment process. So this limitation does not apply to official business interaction between members undertaking their position as a public officer or employee and an applicant limited to their pursuit of local entitlements. Almost there. Ethics. Accordingly, committee members should avail themselves of all applicable ethics laws, rules, and guidelines. COLIG, or the Committee on Ethics and Lobbying in Government, is one resource. Committee members should also consult with your appointing authority to see any other applicable rules and guidelines. Again, some of those are listed here. Resources on the Gaming Facility Location Board's website regarding the applicant and this CAC process. We made it, finally. This is the contact information. If anyone would like to get in touch or have more questions. Okay, I sped through that. Any questions before I turn it over to the Freedom Plaza team? All right, thank you very much.
We can't do it that quick. There's no way. And we weren't quite certain about how long we would have to present. So we cut down our 2,000 PowerPoints to a reasonable number, like 60 some odd. And we hope to get through them all. But if we don't, we're leaving them with you, so you have a chance to look at them and can follow up with us on any questions. I mean, we really appreciate you're taking your time as volunteers to attend this meeting and to listen to our proposal. We're going to start by showing you a short film. It's not R or X rated, so.
Action.
The name of the park is Freedom Plaza. We want this to be part of the revitalization of New York City, to be a true integrated resort for everyone to enjoy.
It's an iconic project, and it will deliver affordable housing to everyday New York.
Everything about this project is about social responsibility.
It's going to bring so much money and jobs for everyone.
Freedom Plaza is all about making New York City the best place to live.
It's going to make it safer. It's going to make it more livable, prettier. I'm excited.
I've always considered New York to be the center of the universe. New Yorkers, when they speak loudest and they're heard. We're extending our hands to the community to be partners in this development.
We talk about welcoming, cooperation, and mutual respect. That's who we are. Wauhegan has always demonstrated as part of wherever we operate of making sure that we're part of the community, talking with civic groups, talking with the local leadership.
This project has taken a very democratic with a small d approach. It's gone to the community and listened to their opinions.
Manhattan is hyper-local, so that particular area of Manhattan, of East Midtown, is a wasteland, literally, and that will be transformed into a green oasis.
The Housing Partnership was very excited when Soloviev reached out to us and discussed how they wanted to be a genuine long-term partner for affordable housing. And let me tell you, the 500 plus affordable units immediately got my attention.
We are at Chirp Peruvian Kitchen. Freedom Plaza is going to be really good for us because it's going to bring more customers into my doors and more fun, not only for my customers, but for my employees.
We are in Hot Bread Kitchen. We learned a lot about Wauhegan, and we have a shared mission in terms of transforming lives for people who face barriers to meaningful careers.
I've been living in the Midtown East area for 19 years, raising 6 children here. So much of the work that we at Chabad Sutton have been doing over almost 20 years is nurturing the soul of the city. And it's really nice to work with the Soloviev Group and feel like Freedom Plaza cares about that too. It's a very powerful idea.
The urban design for Freedom Plaza is inspired by some of the core principles of the design for the United Nations headquarters. We are uniting 3 city blocks to create a green oasis for the community to reach all the way down to the water's edge. We are committing to carbon neutral ecosystem to maximize the environmental performance of the project as a whole. We have 2 residential towers where people can live that creates a little kind of community plaza on the corner.
Well, first of all, we're going to bring affordable housing, which is desperately needed in New York City.
We want to create something that is historic for the community
That will be the largest affordable housing.
Food and beverage, kind of a town green for the Murray Hill neighborhood.
You'll have the Museum of Democracy that not only celebrates and commemorates, but also educates about the core principles of democracy.
We're going to have high-end luxury retail, first-class dining that's going to attract visitors from around the globe. Our gaming facility will be offering a diverse range of experiences for guests, and the Salon Privé will provide an exclusive high-stakes gaming environment tailored for our VIP clients. The Banyan Tree Wellness and Health Spa, alongside a state-of-the-art fitness center, will be world-class venues for health and relaxation right in the heart of the city. For those looking to connect and celebrate, we're introducing expansive conference and entertainment spaces.
The hotel rooftop is a spectacular space. The Vanishing Edge pool reflects adjacent landmarks.
We're going to be running shuttles from areas like Grand Central Station. We're going to be close to subway and bus stops so people can come directly to the property without creating new car traffic.
This project is a unique integrated resort, which will be environmentally friendly, user-friendly, and bring childcare and a lot of amenities to the community. We're going to put to work 8,000 people in good-paying union jobs. That alone is going to be an enormous stimulus to the city of New York and the surrounding areas.
It's a project that we're going to create hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to go back to things like education and enhancing the overall community, whether it's New York City or state of New York.
We're also going to donate 2% of our net profits to the community to use as they see fit.
This is something that's long-term, that is lasting, that's going to be a guarantee to give back to the community.
I love Freedom Plaza because it's a career pathway.
The green spaces, the museum, the market, that's going to make life better for everybody.
I am a big advocate for Freedom Plaza. This is going to be a wonderful space for all New Yorkers.
This isn't just a building, it's a pledge to enhance neighborhood character and strengthen the fabric of our community, creating a legacy that will serve New York and its people for generations to come. This is an opportunity for New Yorkers by New Yorkers.
Next time we'll bring the popcorn, I promise. I'm Michael Hirschman. I'm the CEO of the Soviet Group. And again, thank you for having us here today. You're going to hear from a number of our team members over the course of the next 45 minutes or an hour or however long you'll give us to do this. I'm going to talk a little bit about why Freedom Plaza on the east side. But when we first started to consider doing something a little bit different from what we had originally intended, and I'll talk about that, and I brought the team together, I made it clear from the beginning that I didn't want to bring Las Vegas to Manhattan. That's not our objective. And that's why everyone wants to talk about the casino. Obviously, everyone's been focused on the casino. The fact of the matter is that the casino occupies less than 10% of the total square footage, which is 2.8 million of this integrated resort, and it's built underground. It's not obtrusive. You will not be able to see it from First Avenue. There's no flashing lights, no big waterfalls or water fountains, no screens. And why? Why did we decide that we didn't want to do a typical Las Vegas casino? Well, we live in the neighborhood. We always have. We've lived in the neighborhood for over 30 years. We have built in the neighborhood. Our friends are in the neighborhood. The Solo, we, of course, as I mentioned, we're the Soloviev Group, but many of you know that we, for many years, were the Solo company, Solo Realty and Development Company that has built throughout the city. But we're more than that. We're a multi-industry company. We're the 15th largest landowners in the United States. We have very large ranching and agricultural interests, renewable energy interests. We own trains, and we have hotels and restaurants. And in everything that we do, and no matter where we do it with several things in mind. One, foremost, is sustainability. This project, as you'll learn as we go through this, is going to be entirely carbon neutral and totally sustainable. Secondly, it's not just about making money, it's about giving back to the community. Now, we have a foundation and have had a foundation for many, many years where we have contributed to many community organizations locally, nationally, and even internationally. Wherever we go, we understand that we have a social responsibility to give back to the community, and that is what a lot of this is about. What are we going to bring here in for the community? Well, a number of things. One, as you've heard, affordable housing. It's our intention to build over 1,000 housing units, with almost 50% of them being permanent affordable housing. We're also going to contribute back to the community, and I'll talk a little bit about how we do this, 2% of our net profits. Now, let me explain. This casino is not going to be going up overnight, obviously. This Freedom Plaza is not going to be going up overnight. It's going to take perhaps 3 or more years. However, if we are awarded the license, beginning on the day of the award, we'll give $5 million to the local community investment fund, and that will continue on until we start generating the profits that will lead to almost $250 million going back into the community. No strings attached. We're going to ask the community to form their own board, their own nonprofit organization, and we will donate the money into that organization without any conditions on how it's spent, whether it's spent for beautification, for educational facilities, for sports facilities, but it will be up to the community to do that. We're going to have an almost 5-acre park, and we're going to appoint a advisory board from the community to determine how the park is used and what events will be held there. So we're going to be reaching out to the community through Community Board 6 and other associations to ask them for volunteers to join that board so that the park can be used. It's a privately held park. We're going to maintain it. We're going to secure it, but it's open to the public, and it will be up to the local community to decide how to use it. We're also going to allow for ownership in this project, the Freedom Plaza project, for New York City residents and New York City pension funds. Because we want, by the way, I was asked how you came up with this idea yesterday. I don't even remember who asked me. And I'll tell you, it's the Green Bay Packers. Now, my son lives in Appleton, Wisconsin, and he is a huge Green Bay Packer fan. And 4 years ago, he called me and said, "Dad, I have great news. The Green Bay Packers are offering equity to local residents of Wisconsin. And I just bought a piece of the Green Bay Packers at $250. But he was so excited about this. I said to myself, that's really what drives the fan base. That's what really drives the community, to have a percentage, to have an ownership, and to be able to direct how they want an integrated resort like this to be used. So we're going to allow for between $150 and $180 million of public investment from New York City residents into this. For those of you who know us, going back with the solo group, I know I'm taking too much time. I apologize. I had too much caffeine today. I apologize. We deliver what we promise. We always have, in building in this neighborhood here or in Midtown, where our headquarters is 9 West 57th. We have never let the community down. When we make an agreement with the community, we abide by it. And I realize, however, that words don't often matter in this day and age. It's a weird time in our society, isn't it? So I've asked our lawyers to draw up formal contracts that we will be signing with the relevant authorities, so that when we say you're going to get 588 units of affordable housing permanent, we're going to be contractually obligated to do that. When we say we're going to create an advisory board for the park, we're going to be contractually obligated to do that. All of these commitments to the community, when you add them all together dollar-wise, it's probably close to $1 billion in community benefits. We couldn't do this without a casino, because that is the economic engine for this project. Is it the best part of the project? No, it's not. In my mind, the best part is, these guys will disagree with me, the community center and the Museum of Freedom and Democracy. We're in a very delicate stage in our life here in the United States. So we're coming up to our 250-year birthday, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And freedom isn't free. We have to come together as a society to make sure we understand that we have to work hard to secure the underlying principles: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We're better to do that than here in New York City, where the first capital of this country was located. This is not just a museum. You see where we're sitting today? This is kind of a community center. It's a little community center. It's, I mean, you know, the community does gather here from time to time. We're going to have an 18,000 square foot museum that will provide a community center for meetings, for events, for all of CB6 and other associations, community associations within CB6. I'm going to stop for a moment and well, maybe I should point out, because you may have questions very quickly. You may remember that we purchased this site from the Clyde Edison company over 20 years ago. And a lot of people said, well, why haven't you built on it? Well, first, we had to remediate it. It took almost $100 million to remediate the site. And then we had to get zoning. And as you all know, that is a timely process in New York City and probably in every other city. And then we started to build on it. So we invested $650 million on one part of the plot. That's 685 First Avenue, which is a condo building and a rental building. The Copper Building was part of this site. So the zoning that we have, which allows us to build 4 high-rise buildings, a commercial building and 3 residential buildings on this site, is grandfathered in. We could do that if we wanted to do it today. But if we did that, you're not going to get the sort of amenities I'm talking about here. It's just not possible, not economically feasible. And I go back to my original comment, it's not always about economics. It's about giving back to the community, but we have to be practical and responsible in doing that. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to turn to Ray Penalt, who is the CEO of Mohegan and our partners in this venture.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it, and thank you to the committee for giving us the time today. And we certainly look forward to the next 2.5 months to provide you significantly more information about the project. I think Michael and I agree this is a very exciting project, and we've taken a lot of the community feedback into account when we've been putting this project together, and the team's worked very hard. I just wanted to take a few moments, and I know we don't have a lot of time, just to talk a little bit about Mohegan. I'm sure many of you have heard the name or you know where one of our properties is located, at least, right? In Uncasville, Connecticut. We've been there for almost 30 years. We are a tribal business. We're, in essence, a family business, very similar to Soloviev. And I think that's one of the things that Michael will hit on that draw us together, that when we think about our business, when we think about decision-making, when we think about what's important to any project, it's not about the next stock report. It's not about our year-end results. It's we call it at Mohegan, 13 generations to come. We're making decisions that are going to be in the best interest of our guests, our team members, the tribal membership in the community for 13 generations to come. So we want to build things, we want to do things, we want to make decisions that are going to really be impactful for long times to come, because we want the tribe, and we want our properties and our entities to be around for a long time. And that's how we think about it. One of the things that's really important to us is, our tradition and our culture, and we call it the spirit of Aquay: welcoming, cooperation, building relationships, and mutual respect. Now, oftentimes people will say, well, those are just taglines, corporate taglines. I can tell you, I preach those every day. I talk to our team members about that. We bring team members in that are going to live that as part of their culture. The involvement of our team, the involvement of our community, and the involvement of our guests, and how we operate our business and how we treat each other. It's how we go about each and every day. And oftentimes we'll talk about every guest every time. It's not about just being a guest service industry. We're guest satisfiers, right? We're providing things that people want to come and enjoy, not just our guests, but our team members and the community. And we find that very important to us. Being civically responsible, as Michael's already hit on, is very important to us. I've been a member of the National Council on Problem Gambling for over 2 decades. I was a treasurer for almost 8 years. I was a board member for those 8 years as well. I continue to participate as an advisor to the National Council. We are the largest contributor to the Connecticut Council on Responsible Gambling. And we've actually worked with Yale. We're in the process of working with Yale on our responsible gambling efforts, where we're developing an online app that people who are unable to either get services or afford services, we're developing that. We're going to make it free to the public. It's in testing now. Yale is running the entire project. We're funding the entire project. I'm hoping by the end of this year that I'm meeting with the Yale representatives on how we distribute this nationally. Obviously, we'll start locally, thinking of the tri-state and New England area, and then nationally, rolling that out across the nation. We want people. We have a responsibility. We think this is this is clearly a business that a vast majority of people are able to enjoy responsible, but there are a small portion of the population that aren't. And we have a responsibility, just like any of the addictive services out there, of making sure that we're part of the solutions and finding a way to prevent it, treat it, and provide people the services that they need in the event that they're not able to enjoy our services responsibly. A little bit about our properties. As I've mentioned from the get-go, Mohegan is actually going to approach our 29th anniversary in our Uncasville property this October. Our third anniversary will be the following year. We moved into Pennsylvania, and we were the first operator to open up Pennsylvania in 2006. We bought the property in 2005. And as fate would have it, we took over the management of the Niagara facilities in 2019, just before the pandemic, and shut down after 5.5 months of operation. But at the end of the day, it was about the community. It was about our team members, and we all survived it. It was a difficult time for everybody. We shut down our properties, but we were able to reopen. We've been in the Northeast, as I said, for 29 years. This is the community that we serve. Giving back to the community is very important to us. We've been in the tri-state area, the New England area. We understand the guests. We've been serving those guests. We understand the communities. We're part of the communities. I live in the community, right? So it's just as important to me as it is to our tribe, as it is to our team members. So being a part of that is so very important to us, and making sure that we have a better operation, we have a better business entity when we have a coordination and cooperation amongst our partners. A lot of organizations will talk about having vendors. We don't have vendors. We have partners. And those partners have been with us, some of them, since the time that we first opened. We continue to work with them. Why? It's not about squeezing, as Michael said, the last dollar out of every project. It's certain partners that are going to work with you long term. And there's been difficult times, right? When you think about the Great Recession, there were times when people were worried about, what their bank accounts were going to be like. And we had partners, because we've been long-term partners with, that worked with us and got us through those difficult times that we all faced. And that's kind of how we think about doing our business with our partners, with the community, with our guests, with our team members. We're all in this together, and we're thinking about 13 generations to come and building our enterprise. So with that, I think I'll send it over to Nelson.
Sure, thank you. I'm Nelson Parker. I'm Chief Strategy Officer for Mohegan. Pleasure to be here. So we've got a lot of people in this room who are part of our team online. Just wanted to give you a sense of we really spared no expense, as Michael can attest, as he does quite often, in terms of our team and consultants. And the reason is that this is a really special project. It's $11 billion investment. It's 3.9 million square feet. It's a mixed-use project. The mandate was really twofold. It's how do we create something that's going to be least disruptive and most additive to the community, and how are we going to create a world-class integrated resort? And so really we wanted to bring people on board that shared that idea, shared those thoughts, and then we also wanted to make sure that we had a lot of people that were involved with this project who've been involved with this site for many, many years, back when Soloviev even purchased the property. So I think the video explains a lot of it in terms of the overview, but a few things I wanted just to highlight aside from the overall sheer size of the investment. The mixed use component of it, I think the vision from the onset really was creating something that would be very competitive on a global basis. We're not looking to build a regional resort casino. We're not looking to build something that's going to compete locally. We're looking to really develop something that's going to compete at the very highest levels around the world with the very finest luxury resorts. So we wanted to make sure that that was wholly part of what we were doing, and we chose very specifically those programmatic items that we thought would resonate best with the local market. And then I think moreover, trying to figure out a way to infuse a lot of the community aspects that certainly Soloviev had emphasized throughout this. And we really designed this project, around a park for the most part, which we'll go into a lot more detail around it. But in terms of the overall design as well, we've really tried to be methodical and thoughtful about being as least amount of impact as we can possibly have to the community. And really, traffic is a number one issue, as it relates to these kind of projects, and whether it's New York City or Wichita, Kansas. It's always a big issue, and so we know that, and we've tried to design this project with that in mind, being thoughtful about how our employees access the facilities, thoughtful about how we take deliveries, thoughtful about how people access the facilities from the community through the park, and no curb cuts on First Avenue as an example, placing in a lot of other community elements that you might not otherwise see in a project like this. So we really spent a lot of time and effort, trying to maximize those opportunities where we could. The other thing to mention, I think, is what Michael said in terms of the sustainability. That was also another primary tenet in terms of what we initially sought from a design perspective. So this will be carbon neutral footprint. It will be a LEED Gold certified project with a goal of even reaching platinum, which would make this probably one of the most green initiative projects of its nature, certainly in the United States, if not even the world. There's probably only a handful of other examples that exist. So, for us, that was something wholly important from a development perspective, and certainly from a management perspective as well. Several of our philosophies with the tribe and with our operations at Mohegan Sun and other places. I'll talk more a little later about the economic generation, but we're talking about 17,000 direct jobs here. That's both construction and then once the project is fully open. So quite significant. These are well-paying union jobs that we're wholly supportive of. Zoom to the next slide. Thank you. So we touched a lot of this on the video, so I'll be succinct, but I just want to make sure you have a full sense of what we're looking to develop. From an integrated resort perspective, within the project itself, we have two hotels. So it's essentially a hotel within a hotel concept. We're developing 1,054 keys of Mohegan NYC hotel rooms, which would be about a 4.5-star quality level equivalent. And then we've brought in a new international partner called Banyan Tree. They're very large in Asia and other parts of the world, very well known for luxury, hospitality, as well as spa and wellness. And so we thought that was an important component of this. It's an all suites type of product that's about 200 keys. These are ultra luxury hotel rooms starting at 664 square feet, going up to some of the largest suites in Manhattan, over 4,500 square feet, which is quite remarkable. So with that, around 1,251 hotel rooms, around 30% of those are going to be all suites, which is almost unheard of. Usually you would find that in a resort market, someplace like in the Caribbean or otherwise, but we wanted to bring that here because we thought that was very important for our customer base and bringing people in, tourism and so forth from around the world. The spa, as I mentioned, is a big component, so that will be a Banyan Tree spa. It basically encompasses one full floor of our sky bridge of the property, so it's about 41,000 square feet. It's probably the largest spa in all of Manhattan, so that's very exciting. Of course, gaming, as we'd mentioned. That's obviously a component of this. It's located along the FDR. We'll go into more detail and show you some details around where that's located and how it's accessible, but it'll be accessible along the FDR first and foremost. It'll be 2 levels, basically below grade. So the park itself is essentially a giant green roof that sits on top of the large podium that will also encompass the gaming area. There'll be a nightclub. There'll be some small amount of retail. We didn't want to go too much because you have some of the best retail offering here in the entire world, just blocks away. So we didn't want to go overboard on that. Meeting space, I think as Ray had mentioned, and is around 56,000 square feet. That also doubles as our entertainment venue. Again, I think modest size for a project of this nature, just because, again, we didn't want to compete with the local entertainment venues or even the local convention hotels. There's people here who do that very, very well. And we also didn't want to have a situation where we brought in 10,000 people for a concert, any one given situation, and leave all at once. So again, trying to be very mindful just in terms of traffic and pedestrian traffic and so forth. The amenity deck on the roof at level 52. So that will be, for a variety of reasons. We have food and beverage up there. We have an event space. We have an amazing infinity edge pool. It's probably, again, one of the largest in the Western Hemisphere. It's going to be simply amazing amenity to the resort, underground parking for the entire property. And then from a residential and community perspective, we have 1,049 residential units that we mentioned in 2 towers, of which 513 will be the affordable housing component of this. So nearly 50% of our offering here. Access to this amazing, huge park, which we'll go into more detail in. It's almost 5 acres, which will be freely accessible to the public at all times. We've also included other things we thought were needed, like a food market in the area, and speaking to the community members, and that there's a void of that in this particular area. So we thought that was important to bring. We have food hall, other types of retail and food and beverage amenities around the park that are accessible from a public-facing perspective. So nearly 60% of our restaurants are accessible without stepping foot within the gaming facility. So again, we wanted to make sure that was accessible to the public as well. We also have daycare facilities on site for the local community as well as our employees, and on-site medical facilities as well. So really what our goal was is to create a walk-to-work type of community. So with that, I'll go into more detail on the architecture. This is Martin from Jarke Ingles Group.
My name is Martin. I'm from a partner of Jarke Ingles Group. We are a global firm rooted in Denmark, but we're also very much a New York firm. We have 150 people here, full-time architects in our office in Dumbo. We've been working for the last 15 years on several projects, as you can see on the screen. These are only New York projects. And we always keep in mind the community when we start a project, try to integrate the community. And we always try to create a connection with nature. And then as last thing, especially in New York, we're looking at resiliency being integrated in our projects. Well, so for an example, our residential project, we have 57 Govanas, or the River Ring in Williamsburg. There's always for the residents to create like an amenity as a park, either as a courtyard or as an exterior public facility. Gowanus is like a mix between public and private. So, but the 57 is entirely only for residents and courtyard. So European kind of moment, this courtyard, bringing that into a combination with the New York skyscraper. Connection to green space, an example, our spiral in Hudson Yards has every office space has a planted terrace in front of it. And then resiliency, ESCR, the coastal resiliency project that we just recently completed, is using park space to protect the entire neighborhood from the rising flood levels. And very exciting to see this. I encourage you to go there and check it out. It's similar to Brooklyn Bridge Park, a very high-end new facility for the entire community. So when it comes to Freedom Plaza, we have all the constraints. It's a relatively compact site for all the program that we want to bring in, but we really want to try to kind of maximize the green space in the middle, just an almost 5-acre green space that is like creating that amazing community facility or amenity while respecting all the constraints of tower. And then also in the next slide, you can see how we're trying to position the towers in a very simple and efficient way so that they keep the urban fabric flowing with the streets that connect through the building to keep those view corridors that are required. to the rest of the city. Next slide. And you can see again here, the buildings are very straightforward, efficient, rectangular, just for the sole purpose to really maximize all the green space. And the green space has a main feature, of course, in the middle, the central lawn, and Alison will go into more detail, but then it also offers a variety of different, like smaller scale landscapes, like the children's play areas, some terraces here, F&B, an outlook, and it has quite a topography that goes up and down, just to make sure that all the resort facilities are underneath. It creates a topography that creates a very interesting and diverse landscape on top. Similar to, I think Central Park has a lot of topography, and that makes it interesting and exciting to go to. Next slide. And then here you can see from the East River how the buildings really kind of take inspiration, as Bianca said before in the video, from the UN building, try to blend that, continue that language in with very simple and straightforward buildings, and connect to the couple buildings next to it. And then one singular iconic moment is, of course, the last amenity bridge of the hotel. It creates a signature moment for the development. Next. And here you can see two slides along First Avenue. Here, looking north, it is very well integrated in the urban fabric. It almost feels like it's been there for a long time. And then looking south, you can see similar tower massings that are getting inspired by the UN building, but then have that one singular iconic moment on top. This is the community-facing side of the First Avenue and 39th, where you have the food market. So this is something where grocery stores bring the public in, the residential tower coming down and opening up to bring the public in. And on the left side, you see here the main entrance plaza to the park that leads up in the topography of the park space. Next. And now we just, because we have a lot of slides that you probably see in the submitted material. One more view that shows the continuity of the skyline from UN building to the couple building. Next slide. And then we mainly want to focus on the entrances today, because it's quite important that all the traffic gets kind of integrated very well into the building. So we try to bring the traffic away from the street with the architecture to tuck it in. So this is the resort entrance along the service road of the FDR, and the main traffic to the resort facility is directly from the FDR into the building. So that from the First Avenue side, you don't really get any of this traffic impacting the community. And then closing in on the entrance, the main entrance under canopy. The park is all on top of this. And this is the main entrance to the resort facility. Similar to the hotel drop-off, again, making room that the traffic can get into the building to not disrupt the exterior traffic of 41st Street. The residential portion has a similar canopy drop-off situation on 39th, where the traffic again goes into the building and carries the rooftop park on top of it. And with that, I'm handing it over to Alison from OJB to explain more about the parks.
I'm Allison Harvey. I'm a principal at OJB Landscape Architecture. I also lead our sustainability research group, which is a really inherent part of our process. Our work focuses, we're a national practice, and our work focuses on community-led design. We love making community hearts, and we really want to do it in a responsible manner that creates positive impact to the environment, and it's really focused on people's health and wellness. We know working in New York really well, and this is the terminal at JFK, and part of what we do is try to take big projects that are about infrastructure and urbanity and really re-inject humanity into those spaces and re-inject nature into those spaces to create a connection. You can go to the next one, please. So for Freedom Plaza, one of the things that we really thought heavily about was how the space could be a complement to the neighborhood, to bring a new type of landscape and new amenities of open space to the community. And so we really thought about the types of programs that would happen within the park itself to develop a framework. Next, please. So, there we go. So the framework, the design that we'll be showing you is a concept and would be developed further in conjunction with the community and further community feedback. But how we're thinking about the space is that it really needs to be a space that can welcome visitors, can welcome residents, can welcome local community members within, and that they have a place to be and something to do. And so it's envisioned as a series of rooms that have active spaces, calm spaces, connection with nature, connection with art and culture. So you would enter off of First Avenue through an arrival plaza and the park lifts up into a central lawn and open space. It's complemented by children's play and a daycare, open space for a daycare, as well as cultural spaces around the museum, including an amphitheater and outdoor gathering spaces. And then we also really wanted to create a beautiful space for botanic experiences where the community can come out and engage with more arts and culture. I'm going to take you on a little visual tour of some renderings of the landscape. So this shows you an image of where we're standing on First Avenue. And the unique thing about this project is that it begins to lift you off of the street grid and kind of immerse you in nature and green. So you have these moments where you're ascending into the park, you have connection with the streetscape, but you're also moving into a series of landscapes. You can go to the next one. So you'll be moving through woodland spaces and engaging with beautiful water features that lift you into the central community core that includes a lawn. Go to the next one. A lawn. And this is a space that, could be just a place where you want to throw the Frisbee with your kids, or it can be activated and sort of flex up for community activities as a space of interest to gather after a long day. And you can see now that we've ascended up into the park. We've ascended up into the park that there are great views over the FDR where you can really re-engage that connection to the river. So the community can actually, reach over the FDR and see the waterfront. We're envisioning that there'll be spaces for kids to play and families to gather, as you can see here, and that as you move up into the park, that there would be elements of urbanity sort of at the edges. The architecture comes with it, and activation where you can grab a meal, sit here underneath the shade of the tree, and actually spend your day at the facility and go to the museum, and then you would be able to even just walk along the riverfront. You can go to the next page. So as I was saying earlier, expansive views would be sort of reaching over the FDR so that you kind of have this almost upland elevated esplanade that's a complement to the riverfront esplanade. Next one. So part of our process, as I mentioned at the beginning, is that we're really focused on sustainability and resiliency. It's something that every project in New York needs. With the connection to the waterfront, we think a lot about the Waterfront Alliance and bringing the values of the Waterfront Alliance and their wedge guidelines up into this sort of upland river environment. But part of our process is to sort of test this, look at it with climate change. Are these spaces going to be comfortable over time? How will the landscape mature over the next 30 years, the next 50 years, to ensure that it's going to be comfortable for the community? Next. And we can't help but also just be ambitious and think about how can this landscape evolve? How can we further engage the water in a future phase? So the project leaves the door open for a connection potentially over the FDR to rethink a new green space that really enhances the how you engage with the water. So would New Wave Pier be an opportunity to kind of continue that the green all the way up, between the two spaces? So I've sort of presented a framework to you, but the beauty of landscape is just how it's activated. We create spaces that we want the community to be activated and bring life. And so I'm going to hand it over to Dan Peterman to talk about that.
Thank you very much, Allison. So
My best known project, obviously locally, is Bryant Park, which we're still perfecting after 45 years. And it's a great asset to the East Midtown community, but it's 3/4 of a mile away. So it's the same size as the space you're getting from Soloviev, which is terrific. And when we got on the project, we're always nervous when we're about to be told who the landscape architect was. And when Michael said we've hired OJB, I breathed a sigh of relief. We've created fantastic parks with this firm in Dallas, Houston, Greensboro, and elsewhere. They combine great landscape architecture with great programming, and people all over the country are noticing them. So I think you're getting a great team here and a great architect. The programming will be done in some of the same ways we've perfected in Bryant Park. This triangle is somewhat counterintuitive. Programming that really works stays up here with everyday amenities. If you walk around Bryant or some of the other parks we've worked on, you see small knots of people, which is more appropriate for this neighborhood than huge crowds with a lot of noise. These are quiet activities, a reading room, ping pong, pétanque, classes of various kinds, art classes and the like. And that's all up here. And too many parks, I'll pick one in particular because I don't think people in Atlanta will be watching this presentation. Too many parks do too much that's big concerts and festivals. And they're rare, and they're noisy, and they degrade the asset. And they don't do much for somebody who arrives at 3 weeks later is that festival. So we think you'll be up here, and how will that programming be designed with the community? And I cannot tell you how many things in Bryant Park have been affected by the opinions of people who live in Kips Bay or Murray Hill. Tremendous number of phone calls. They meet me in the park. They know who I am by now. I can't be anonymous anymore. And they say, why don't you do this? I don't like the time you're doing this. Why are you making me round the corner? Very fine-grained. But that doesn't mean we assume they'll make the same comments here. So we will be in touch with the Kips Bay, Murray Hill, and Sutton Hill area community about how to design these very much. And then we should note that the museum is going to be part of the programming. It's been mentioned, and community meetings will be held there. So you've got that added benefit of a really interesting piece of programming. This programming is what makes Bryant Park safe. We have no crime there. When we took it over, it had 500 felonies a year, murders, rapes, robberies, drug trading of all kinds, drug use. And this will assist, not that your community is as dangerous as other portions of Midtown are, but it'll greatly lead to a safe environment. A couple other comments about this team. When I joined it, I'd never been to Mohegan. So I said, I better go up to Mohegan Sun. They said, we'd love to have you visit. The quality of what's there is stunning. I had just come off an Urban Land Institute conference in Las Vegas. I'd been through 6 casinos. Every time I was frustrated, I said, where's the front door? They want to make you get lost. That's not at all what Mohegan Sun does. They want you never to emerge from the casino. You know the story. Mohegan Sun is exquisite, and David Rockwell did the work there. And I was incredibly impressed. So they really have picked a first-class team here of designers who will give you something you don't want to miss out on. So we're honored to be part of the team. We really would love to work further with the Murray Hill and Kips Bay and Sutton area communities. And Jamie Smart has done a project that's brought life to 57th Street and 2nd Avenue. So he also knows East Midtown, and he's going to talk to you about the housing portion.
Thank you, Dan.
Sure.
As Dan mentioned, my name is Jamie Smart. I'm the CEO of the New York City Housing Partnership. I understand much of the conversation here is about gaming and overall resort facilities, but I'm here to speak about the housing because housing is my passion. So I'm delighted to be a part of the Freedom Plaza team and to advocate for affordable housing. During my professional career, I've also run New York City's inclusionary housing program, and I've run all of New York City's tax incentive programs for housing, 421A, J51, 421G. I'm intimately involved with execution of all of these. My professional career centers around creating impactful development for generations of New Yorkers. Really, about 1 mile from the Freedom Plaza site is another of my developments that was my passion between 2008 and 2013. 252 East 57th Street. 252 East 57th Street won an Urban Land Institute Award for innovative mixed-use development. It features 3 new public schools that are built below a residential tower, and there's a grocery store and other retail. Retail unit employs high school students from the High School of Art and Design. Again, those are the kinds of projects that I associate myself with. So the Housing Partnership was founded in 1983 by Mayor Edward Koch and David Rockefeller to advance the cause of middle-class housing in the 5 boroughs. I think Mayor Koch and David Rockefeller's work really 4 decades ago recognized that unless there was a public-private partnership that always advocates for middle-class housing, it won't happen in New York City. So advocating for public-private partnerships is indeed why I'm happy to be here to appear before you without any reservation to advocate on behalf of the 513 permanently affordable housing opportunities that are included as part of this proposal. Again, I know that housing is not the state's primary concern, but it's my concern, and it will be my passion. We face a dire housing emergency in New York City right now. New Yorkers have about as close to a 0% chance to find a safe, affordable place to live as ever. The depth of this housing crisis means that we must, again, we must, not should, treat every large-scale development project as an opportunity to build more affordable housing for New Yorkers. So it's for this reason that I was delighted when approached by Freedom Plaza's leadership that they already understood this. They got it. And we weren't having to have discussions with them about doing housing. They were fully prepared to offer 50% of their project as permanently affordable housing opportunities for New Yorkers. And this is real affordable housing. I'll give you some dire statistics. The median sales price of a house in Manhattan right now is $1.2 million. Mind-blowing. That's the median sales price. So I was delighted when I worked with this team and they said, let's work to make some homeownership units out of this allotment that will be available for a third of that. A third of that. A third of the median sales price for Manhattan right now. Let's work to make some units, some inclusionary units that will have rents that New Yorkers can afford. And not a few units. We're talking half the project. So, you know, this is top-notch residential development. Can we see some of the interiors? Top-notch residential development that will be available for New Yorkers that can afford it with real rents. So, second of all, the housing is immediate. We've heard enough about projects that are going to get built and the affordable will get built 15 to 20 years from now. New Yorkers don't need that. We need the housing right now. We should not permit large-scale development projects to build off-site. It should be all inclusionary like Freedom Plaza proposes. So Freedom Plaza is building this housing right now along with the rest of these development units. As I mentioned, the affordable units will be fully inclusive, and that is the true intent of the city's inclusionary zoning law. Middle-class New Yorkers will be able to enjoy all of the amenities that you have seen today. There will not be a pour door. The units won't be put in a separate building away from the others. It will be inclusive with this overall development. So again, that's why the Housing Partnership is here today to second this proposal. So to sum up, Freedom Plaza will provide the most inclusive housing opportunities in a large-scale development project that New York City has ever seen. So I prefaced my remarks by saying that I know a little bit about development in this neighborhood because I built another very large-scale project that features 3 public schools. But I also just want to quickly focus you on some of the things that I think set this project apart from others. First, I mentioned the city's zoning process.
So I've been in New York City since 1994. I came here after college, and I've worked here ever since. Our city's zoning process for large-scale development projects, it often provides New Yorkers with a quote-unquote public amenity in exchange for a tall building. What is that public amenity? Most of the time, it's a windswept concrete public plaza that you can't even use during the winter. And at other times of the year, it's often unsafe to use because it doesn't have proper patrols. So Freedom Plaza is creating a 5-acre public park with patrol security 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Where else in New York are you going to get that? Not even Central Park has 365 day a year, 24-hour security. So this will be a park in and of itself with like a permanent security patrol. So an ultimate public amenity. It'll be a place where any New Yorker is glad to bring their family. Second, I mentioned to you about my background of developing public and charter schools in the city. I did that during all 12 years of the Bloomberg administration. So I approached Freedom Plaza's leadership about the need where you have such a overall active residential community. We're going to need some early childhood education facilities somewhere in this development. And they've been very receptive about it. So that's something we continue to be in conversation with the leadership about. So third, it was mentioned briefly, and I want to go over it again, about the centerpiece community facility in this development, which is the Museum of Freedom and Democracy. So this is something that's very personal to me, and it's something that Michael and I have a connection about, because personally, I, as a New Yorker and a concerned American, I cannot think of a better time to ensure that New York City is erecting a strong symbol of both its historic and its present commitment to immigrants, to freedom and democracy than right now, given our present political circumstances. This Museum of Freedom and Democracy is greatly needed. So in conclusion, I think many years ago, when New York voters and then the governor and the legislature approved downstate gaming opportunities, that's clearly the purpose of your deliberations today. I believe sincerely that Freedom Plaza is exactly the kind of comprehensive, impactful development that this process contemplated. Freedom Plaza is it's development that's consistent with the governor's and the mayor's housing plans. It will immediately add 1,000 units toward the governor's goal of creating 800,000 housing units in New York for the next 5 years. So Freedom Plaza is clearly providing substantial local community benefits. And lastly, Freedom Plaza, I think, again, represents the best execution of the city's inclusionary housing zoning. So it's for all these reasons that I think the Housing Partnership is proud to be associated with this project, and we will continue to advocate strongly for the 513 units of affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think now we're going to have a transportation presentation.
Nope, not yet. So, we get next.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Are we okay time-wise for? Yeah.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Great. So I'll just spend a couple of minutes or seconds even talking about some of our economic impacts. As you can imagine, a project of this size creates an enormous amount of economic activity. We commissioned an economic impact study, and to summarize, basically 2 buckets. Falls into a one-time category during construction. These are more temporary jobs that you're creating, during the duration of construction, and thereafter on a permanent basis once you're up and operating. So, given the sizable investment that we're looking to make, as well as the other types of activities, this would be a directly on-site as well as created from a effectively an indirect and induced basis as well. So altogether, it's for almost $9 billion in economic activity for New York State, which is quite significant. Once up and operating, it will be over $3 billion on an annual basis in terms of economic activity for the state as well. Jobs, very significant. So not only on-site jobs, but as I mentioned, really the ripple effect throughout the economy. We're looking to create close to 26,000 jobs through New York State during construction, and then once we're operating, over 13,000 jobs as well. So a project like this can be extremely impactful. Wages, very good, well-paying jobs, benefits, over $2 billion during construction on an ongoing basis, close to $750 million, and then revenue in terms of fees and licensing and other things that we create during the construction of this project. Over $1 billion effectively for the state during construction, and then nearly that for up and operational. That's every year after operations. So just wanted to make sure that we pointed that out. We've spoken quite a bit about jobs, but it is important that effectively 8,000 jobs once we're up and operational. These are well-paying jobs. These are careers in hospitality. They have great benefits. They're there to support a very wide range of people in all different disciplines. So that's critical. We're looking to hire and maximize the best extent, local hiring processes throughout the 5 boroughs. We're big supporters of DEI at Mohegan, and it's been part of our philosophy for forever. That's something we very much still support, and so that's a very important thing for both us and Soloviev. Also, supporting MWBE, both businesses and people from a staffing perspective. We're minority-owned businesses, we have mentioned, so that's also something that we spend a lot of focus on as an organization and looking to promote those kind of categories, and then certainly workforce development. I think Michael's going to mention a little bit more about that in a moment, but something that we wholly embrace. We've allocated quite a bit of money investment to workforce housing development programs in the onset, and that's something VC will continue, once up and operational. Purchasing also in terms of helping support, local businesses, MWBE businesses. We want to try to maximize our investment with local businesses and promote them. We spend tons of money in our local communities and around each of our different operations in the 4 or 3 locations that we're currently in. And then lastly, which is unique to us also, so we have something called Momentum, Mohegan Momentum Rewards Program, which effectively is, as you spend money in the facilities, you create points. You can redeem those points for the stores, for hotel rooms, at the restaurants, or whatever. That's fairly typical. But what we've done is we've actually extended that outside our footprint, so outside the building, and we've been working with local businesses in the area, which we'd like to continue to expand. So they can basically redeem those points at their local businesses to help support local retail, local food and beverage. It's really like money. I mean, you basically go and establish that you have these points that you've created, and that you can essentially redeem those, and really another way that we can offer to help local support local businesses. So.
And I think they want me back again. I must have done something right. So I'm a former Teamster. Once a Teamster, always a Teamster. We're dedicated to making sure that all of our employees are union members, and all of them get the full benefits of being union members. We have signed memorandum of understanding and letters of intent with all the major unions, and all of them are supporting us and have been very supportive on a daily basis, having input in issues, on all the issues related to this site, whether it be the park, the housing, the retail, or otherwise. So we are going to be proud, frankly, proud members, honorary members, if you will, of the unions here in New York City and New York State. And in addition to that, I mentioned earlier that long before we ever decided to entertain an integrated resort, we had a foundation. We've had a foundation here for over 20 years, and we have been working very closely with a group of nonprofits, non-governmental organizations over the years to support their causes. Some of them recently have sat at the table with us to talk about how they can be involved in some way, shape, or form in our activities. Some of these, the Reese Settlement Group, the HOPE program, Lesson. We've committed over $56 million to nonprofits and non-governmental organizations to support their works in the community, whether it has to do with employment, whether it has to do with hunger, whether it has to do with disease. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that the foundation has contributed not only to local causes, but to international causes. When Ukraine was invaded by Russia, we set up a health center in Poland for Ukrainian refugees. Here locally, we've been great supporters of the Police Foundation, the Wounded Warrior Project, of course, Henry Street Settlement, City Meals on Wheels. And this is something we do not because we have to, but because we want to. I've worked with a lot of corporations over the years and advised a lot of corporate executives on social responsibility programs. And I tell them the same thing. If you feel like you're doing this because you have to, because of shareholder concerns or publicity, don't do it. Don't do it. Do it because you want to do it. Do it because if you're going to be an organization that's looked at with admiration by the community, then make sure you take part in the community. And we've always done that. And yes, now you're going to be treated to traffic and public safety.
I do want to ask the committee quickly, how much time would you like to leave for questions? And again, the questions will be from the committee to the presenters and vice
We're going to be
versa.
finishing up very quickly, but I'm happy to stop here if you want for questions. Or
I think we'd like to hear the traffic.
Yeah, traffic, I think, yeah, if we can, if it'll be another 10 minutes, and then we'll have 20 minutes for questions.
Okay, great.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Allison Matthews. I'm a transportation engineer at Lincoln Engineering in New York City. Lincoln Engineering has extensive experience in working on large developments in the New York area, including for properties in close proximity to Freedom Plaza, just across the street at 685 First Avenue, for example. And we have experience working throughout the full life cycle of a project from a transportation analysis perspective, including assessment, modeling, and management and mitigation stages. And we understand that planning for the site from a traffic and transportation perspective is extremely important and fundamental to integrating Freedom Plaza into the greater fabric of Manhattan. Lincoln has been conducting a comprehensive transportation analysis of trips generated by Freedom Plaza and their potential impacts on the surrounding street network, parking availability, and effects on transit and pedestrian operations. This is under review by the New York State Gaming Commission, as well as involved city agencies, including New York City Department of Transportation and MTA. And the analysis follows city environmental quality review guidelines. For the traffic analysis, we assessed 13 key intersections immediately adjacent to Freedom Plaza, as well as connecting to nearby major arterials like FDR Drive and the Queens Midtown Tunnel. And we looked at intersections between major avenues and the residential cross streets. Next slide. In addition to conducting a traffic analysis, we're also analyzing both pedestrian and transit service in relation to Freedom Plaza. As shown in the figure, Freedom Plaza is extremely well connected to many different transit options, including subway and commuter rail service near Grand Central, ferry service at the East 34th Street ferry landing, and many local bus options nearby as well. Potential impacts to transit capacity and pedestrian facilities, including sidewalks, corners, and crosswalks, are being evaluated as part of this transportation analysis that we're conducting. In terms of the expected levels of traffic generated by Freedom Plaza, we expect there to be approximately 6 to 16 inbound trips per minute coming into the site in any given peak hour. And I want to reiterate, as many have before me, that the design of the site has carefully considered the impact of project-generated trips on the surrounding local street network and has been configured to minimize impacts as much as possible. So that includes not including curb cuts on First Avenue and having multiple access points to the site along the other streets surrounding the development. The site will be directly accessible off of the southbound FDR Drive, and in order to minimize impacts to local streets. Vehicles will pull into internal driveways and porte cocheres, which have been designed to handle the peak levels of trips expected and to avoid any queuing or backup impacting the streets surrounding Freedom Plaza. And in addition, the access to the underground parking facility will include sufficient space for vehicles to queue for valet parking. As for the findings of our traffic analysis, it goes without saying that there are existing high levels of background traffic on the surrounding street network, with some intersection approaches already considered to operate at congested levels. Preliminary results of our traffic analysis show that for more than 40 approaches analyzed within the study area, there are potential impacts estimated at 11 of those approaches. So a majority of the approaches analyzed are not impacted as a result of Freedom Plaza. A vast majority of those impacted approaches are on turning or merging movements, with the through traffic flows at intersections generally operating with no significant impact. And in a few slides, we'll get into some measures that can be taken to mitigate some of these potential impacts. As for parking, a large below-grade parking garage is planned for the site, which would include 1,450 spaces total, including both residential accessory parking and public parking. This number of parking spaces is enough to satisfy the projections of residential parking demand at all times, and enough to satisfy public parking demand for most times, all but a handful of hours during the Saturday evening period, where there would be a minor shortfall. However, a capacity study was conducted for off-street public parking facilities near the site and found that there were plenty of spaces to accommodate that surplus demand. Going forward, traffic and pedestrian measures are being proposed and would be coordinated with New York City DOT to mitigate traffic and pedestrian impacts where feasible, including traffic signals and minor modifications to roadway striping to help promote better traffic flow, improvement to sidewalks, crosswalks, and corners for pedestrians. And in addition, the project proposes to convert East 41st Street to a two-way street to better optimize vehicular traffic flow and access to and from the site. And in addition, a transportation management plan would be implemented to achieve the objectives of better managing peak traffic flows, reducing auto traffic to the site by promoting alternative modes of travel, and coming up with a comprehensive plan in coordination with DOT, NYPD, and the United Nations to manage traffic circulation during UN Week every September, which I know is a major concern the community has. Next slide. The transportation management plan measures would include a free shuttle operating 24/7, connecting Freedom Plaza to Grand Central Terminal, as well as the East 34th Street ferry landing, so nearby transit, as well as other efforts, both physical and employing the use of technology to assist with parking and traffic operations. And I, at this point, will turn it back over to Ray, who will speak to Mohegan's specific expertise in optimizing transportation.
Thank you, Alison. I appreciate it. I think that in talking about two topics, traffic and security, that you'll see how we're taking the community into account, how our partnership is thinking about the project, and how Mohegan operates, our business. When we think about traffic congestion, as many things Allison's already pointed out, not having a curb cut at First Avenue, right, to prevent traffic from building up on First Avenue, coming in off the side streets and the FDR into the building with the primary entrances. We specifically in our designs chose not to have a convention center of the size you would expect of a project this large, to not have that traffic coming in at 8 and 5 o'clock, 8 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the evening. We specifically decided not to have a large entertainment hall. Again, as Nelson pointed out earlier, having 10 and 12,000, 13,000 cars coming in at the same time, creating additional. So we've taken those into consideration. When we think about our business, as I said earlier, we're not in the guest service business, we're in the guest satisfaction business. And when our guests, our team members are coming in and the community, the last thing we want is their initial experience to be is backup of traffic and inability to get to the property. So when we're thinking about how we want our guests to get there, how we want our team members to get there, we want to have it as least impactful as possible. Now, our operations are 24/7, which spreads out the traffic significantly and helps significantly. Also, our peak times are different than the 8 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon rush hour times, right? Our peak business is primarily over the weekends and at night. And that's when you'll see the traffic flow. And we are centrally conveniently located, I should say, to the ferry into Grand Central to run a 24-hour shuttle, encourage people to come in through mass transit. We will not be providing a team member parking space for team members. Encourage them to come in through mass transit and access the parcel through mass transit and not create more traffic congestion. So I think in all of the things that we're doing from a traffic perspective, we're thinking about the community, we're thinking about our team, we're thinking about our guests and how we make this a guest satisfier, not dissatisfier. That's the business that we're in. When it comes to security, I can tell you again, if people are coming to a facility and they're not feeling safe, they're not going to come back. Right. Again, this is a guest satisfaction for us. This is an important part for our team members. It's an important part for our guests. It's an important part for the community. We are going to have, as has already been mentioned, 24/7 security. So there'll be people roaming the property, roaming the building 24/7, and we'll have a security force on site 24/7. We will probably have the most advanced and sophisticated surveillance system that you'll find anywhere. That's what our properties have, and we make sure that we're surveilling everything to make sure that we're providing a safe environment. We're going to make sure that we're providing sufficient and adequate lighting to all of the properties so that people feel comfortable and safe. We are already working with the United Nations on United Nations Week to make sure that we're addressing any concerns that they have during that week when we understand it's a major concern. There's also been discussions already with the local police department on how we can address having a uniformed police force on property, working on property, patrolling the property to make sure it's a safe and secure environment, not only for our guests, but for our team members and the entire community. So these are issues that we've heard through the community, that we're taking their feedback. We take them very seriously, and they're very important to us as well as we know it is to the community, our guests and our team, and something that we're going to address. And we feel very confident that we're going to deliver on both of these measures as part of this project and the manner that we can address them.
Thank you, Ray. I think I'll finish up by saying the following. We've worked hard to keep the community informed and to listen to the community. We've held over 70 meetings with community organizations, civic associations, nonprofit organizations. We've done polling. Our recent polling, I think it's as recent as May, found that 2/3 of folks in Manhattan support our project, and actually 57% of the folks in Midtown East support the project. To give you an example of how we've considered community feedback, I had a very stupid idea when this whole project started. I wanted to build a Ferris wheel in the middle of it. And I thought it was brilliant, but it turned out not to be. I went to the community and I was heckled and I was ridiculed, and there went the Ferris wheel. That's just one example of a lot of input that we've had from the community and will continue to have from the community. We look forward to working with them on this huge opportunity to establish a community investment fund. And we know that we living in the community. So I mentioned earlier, we live in the community, the Soloviev family. We have 2 teenagers, 2 grandchildren. We have a brother. We have nephews and nieces living in the community. I dare to think if we did something that was against what they wanted, how our family meetings would go, they would probably be pretty ugly. And finally, I want to talk about just Mohegan. So I don't know anything about gambling. Soloviev has never been involved in casinos. I mean, I'll admit, from time to time, I put a quarter into a slot machine. But craps confuses me. The roulette wheel makes me dizzy. I'm not a gambler. Sorry, guys, but it's just the truth. So when I thought it, how do I find a partner? Because you can't do this without a partner. So, of course, I went to Las Vegas and I spoke with 3 of the biggest players in Las Vegas. I won't mention their names, but none of them know anything about New York City. But they all want a license in New York City. And when I say New York City, I'm not talking about just Manhattan, Queens and Bronx and so on and so forth. They all want in here. And I sit down with them. I said, tell me your vision. they're all public companies that only wanted to talk to me about P&L and their responsibilities to their shareholders, quarterly meetings, and this and that. And I came back and I was, I was in a state of despair. I said, I can't work with these people. It's just not my type of folks. And then they didn't even know this. I decided to take a trip out to Mohegan. I put on the disguise. I looked a little like Santa Claus. And I went and I talked to the folks that worked there. And I talked to the folks that visited there. And after 2 days there, I wanted a job there. They all loved it there. They all said, this is the best place to work. These are the kindest people. And so I set up a meeting with Ray, and he introduced me to their board. They call it the Tribal Council. And these people thought like we did. They care about people. They care about people's families. They care about the future of their employees and their stakeholders, which go far beyond just their employees, but out to the community. They donate to the schools and to sporting events and beautification. And I just said, this is like a match made in heaven. And so we sat down and we came to an agreement. And since we've been working with them for a year and a half, has it been that long?
3 years. I was going to say it's approaching 3.
See how time flies? I have to tell you, I'm proud to call ourselves a partner with Mohegan. They're good people. They're caring people. And we're happy to answer up to, open it up to questions.
Yes, please. Oh, great. I'll kick us off. Thank you for that presentation. Very insightful. I'm curious to know if the applicant can speak a little bit more about freight needs, deliveries, loading, unloading, and the impacts to the larger transportation network. If there's on-site solutions for, micromobility, cargo e-bikes. There was a lot of focus on clientele and workers coming to and from the space. I'm just curious to see how the applicant will deal with the delivery needs.
Yeah. Actually, Paul, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so we have our approach is somewhat two-pronged. We already have been speaking to some facilities out in Long Island City. We know that tractor trailers are not allowed in Manhattan, so our plan is to have everything be delivered there, broken down into box trucks and be brought to the site. Within the confines of the site, we actually have a delivery elevator for trucks, and it drops down. It has a turntable down on the lower level where all, and I'm happy to walk you through the plans, but you'll be able to see how from the lower level, all of the goods can be distributed around the facility. The trucks will be drawn right off 41st Street, go down, taken down to level C-3, and then thereafter. In terms of deliveries, there'll be deliveries are planned, and what we do on our other facilities, the vast majority of deliveries will be 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. So again, as part of our TMP, we have a dedicated coordinator for all transportation, but they will, and also in terms of loading dock, we have a dedicated person at loading dock who's responsible for marshalling and receiving all goods. So again, it'll be coordinated with the offsite facility in Long Island City. Again, they'll be radioed ahead, trucks coming in, box truck rates coming straight off 41st Street, taken down to the lower level, unloaded, and then turned back around.
And we've located that down by the FDR, so we wanted to keep it away from as much of the residential buildings as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, adding to, have you thought about bike lanes in the transportation plan and protected bike lanes as well as access to bikers?
Sure. Adnan or Allison, you want to talk about bike lanes?
First Avenue currently has a protected bike lane that runs northbound. A little bit south of the site, it turns to a two-way cycle track. So that we're not planning on affecting or changing any operations with that protected bike lane on First Avenue. And then,
I'd say we looked at bike storage, on site and have those accessible to our guests as well. And we're doing a lot of other green initiatives like car charging, got an enormous percentage of that associated, but in terms of just full transportation, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to make sure that the existing roads
Absolutely.
would be protected. And the other question to add to that, as you mentioned, 41st Street would become two-way traffic. So right now, between Park and Second, it is two-way, and then it leads into Tudor City. So that's blocked. So what is the plan?
So there would be no effect on 41st Street west of First Avenue. It would just be the singular block from First Avenue to the FDR Drive Service Road. It's one block where right now it's operating one way westbound. So the project proposes to convert that to two-way
Okay,
operation.
so Tudor City wouldn't be impacted.
Yeah, Tudor City would remain separate.
And then have you looked at congestion for the M42 bus?
Yeah, so we've been analyzing all of the different transit options in the area, both in terms of transit capacity and just how the service in general on like the street network is affected. One of the proposed mitigations we have is to install traffic signals on either side of that East 41st Street block to help promote better flow for the M42 that's making their turnaround there. And then I'll also say we didn't really touch on it in the presentation, but there we looked at line haul for all of the buses in the area where we're expecting more trips to be generated by Freedom Plaza, and all of them have sufficient capacity to handle the additional expected trips on
And
buses.
we're not going to allow any employee parking on site. We're going to subsidize public transportation for all our employees.
Thank you.
And the last thing I'll say, sorry, we're also coordinating with MTA on all of this. So we've met with them a few times, met with people in service planning to discuss our transportation analysis. So they are reviewing and coordinating with us on all of this.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to encourage that the public transit opportunities also include the city's bike share program. So not just
Of
this.
course.
I also have a transportation question. I wasn't sure where you anticipate cars getting back on the FDR. Where does that, I'm going north?
Going north. So yeah, Allison, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so the nearest northbound FDR Drive entrance is at First Avenue and East 48th Street. So we would expect cars to navigate up First Avenue from the site to get onto the northbound FDR Drive.
And is that one of the intersections you're studying as well?
Yes, yeah, that's included in the study area.
And so going southbound,
Southbound, they would come onto FDR Service Road and continue south until they hit the first ramp onto southbound FDR Drive, which would be down at East 34th Street, which we're also studying.
and do you have approvals to use that, the service road as an access? Is that city DOT, state DOT?
This has been a recent question. I believe it is, and someone can jump in here if you have more information. It's under the jurisdiction of neither state DOT nor city DOT. I believe it's the Department of Small Business Services.
DCAS.
So we are.
Good luck. Oh.
And I believe
FDA, sorry, so not DCAS.
EDC generally kind of coordinates with them on these things, so we're kind of figuring that out.
So at this point, you're not totally sure you'll be able to utilize that?
Oh, no, I mean, I believe that's not a question.
It's
but
not a question.
That's,
Yeah, just not past jurisdiction.
yeah.
And-
Is it a mapped street? It is not a mapped street. I don't believe it is, but.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. And in fact, really, the M42 bus is about the only thing that happens on that street usually.
It's a big bus layover area as well.
Yes, yeah. So we've been taking that into consideration for the proposed configuration of East 41st Street, that bus layover needs to be preserved.
And I just will note that there's 282 more parking spaces in the proposal than in the proposal that was approved previously. So it's a lot more cars that are coming to the site. When this was approved previously, there was a huge debate about how many cars would be allowed, and it's just quite a few more cars.
Sure.
So-
Well, different uses, and we wanted to make sure we had sufficiently adequate parking on site so as not to create more of a congestion issue. technology, yes, of course, according to 2008.
Other questions?
I have another transportation question. What is the route of the shuttle from Grand Central, and where would that pick up and drop off?
Allison or Paul?
So again, we're in the early stages of that, and so we're working with the MTA and the ferry just to allocate space. Obviously, we need to pick up the cost of any improvements that are needed to be able to do it, but it's wherever we can find a place in coordination with them. So we're at the early stages of those conversations, but we've not really started the outreach, but have not definitively come up with a place to
Certainly, we have a lot of, I think, capacity along, FDR and our porte cochere, and we've designed it in such a way that there's going to be quite a bit of queuing for either buses or shuttles or what have you. So it seems like a logical place, but we're still working through some of the details.
Now, I have a little fact on traffic that you might find interesting, those of you who are worried about traffic. Bryant Park knows exactly how many people visit each year because we have cameras up, 19 million in a 12-month period. Our restaurant operator was asked, so what do you do about parking? He said, we don't have any. So people come for 1,000 seats in the restaurant, concerts that draw 6,000 or 8,000 people, movies that draw more, and 19 million people come without any disruption to traffic on 5th or 6th Avenue or 42nd Street, or really 40th Street. And that's with all the deliveries that one of you asked about. So it's surprising what Manhattan, it's like police department brags that can absorb any event. Manhattan can absorb surprising numbers of people without huge congestion. So as we've been thinking about, are we really going to be disruptive? I said to the team, 19 million is a lot of people, more than are going to visit the casino. So I think I'm very optimistic about, given all the concern that has been expressed, the smart plans of the consultants, that we will not be disrupting the neighborhood.
We think that the traffic flow on this plan is better than if we went ahead on the previous approval. Particularly in part, we discussed no cuts on First Avenue. And in the other plan, there's 2 vehicular entrances on First.
I wonder if we could switch to the affordable housing
Yes.
portion. And I just wondered how affordable is defined.
It's Jamie here. So we have the income guidance that's in the city's inclusionary housing zoning, but that's a discussion with the community. But we're starting with the inclusionary housing guidelines.
And that sets a range. You're allowed to pick a range within the
That's
exclusionary housing. So do you know yet what your proposal is?
So I don't think we would not set that without a community discussion.
And does that apply to the composition of units in terms of unit size as well?
And so the unit sizes, the unit distributions, I think those have already been determined because they're just a percentage of the overall between Studio 1 and 2. So.
That's right.
And look, that's good questions, and I want to make sure you understand. Those of you who know our buildings, we build quality buildings. 9 West 57th is the #1 commercial building in the country. 685, if you've seen it, is a beautiful building. And let's not forget, we constructed 685 on First Avenue with minimum disruption. We're not going to sacrifice quality because we have affordable housing. Jamie said before, it's not going to be a separate entrance because you earn less money. You're not going to have different amenities because you are in a different class. This is going to be you saw some of the pictures. Those apartments are as what we envisioned. Those apartments that you saw are affordable apartments.
And the 2 buildings that you built already, do they have affordable housing in them?
No.
No.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the previous?
The Richard Myers building and the Copper building, do they have any affordable housing?
We don't own the Copper building.
But it's part, okay.
It was part of the original.
Right.
Yes.
But so does, and I forget, I call it the Richard Park, but does it have affordable housing?
The Copper Building?
No, 685.
Oh, 685, it does not.
Does not. And then I guess back to affordability, who then, you said it would be over, perpetual, it's over time. Who actually will be the one who enforces that or controls that?
We're going to have a partnership, perhaps with the New York State Housing Partnership. We will not administer the affordable housing. It'll be done by a professional organization that has expertise in that area.
So we've been doing that for 42 years now. We have about 90,000 units in the 5 boroughs where we are the administrator.
I wanted to ask about, you mentioned also home ownership.
Yes.
So how would that work? Is it like a Mitchell-Lama program or?
It's definitely not Mitchell-Lama.
Yeah.
Again, these are top-notch residential apartments, and they will be offered for sale, but at affordable prices. And they will carry with them that AMI restriction on resale.
Yeah.
So.
Another question. If I can jump in, if the team can speak a little bit more to ways that they aim to promote equitable contracting and procurement and their MWB veterans hearings.
Do you want to take that one, Ray?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean, I think that, when we've established our businesses, the first thing we do in looking for opportunities is partnering with the community businesses in the community and providing resourcing from businesses within the community. But we're a minority-owned business. So, we have a vested interest in making sure that we invest in minority-owned businesses, and we make sure that we maintain lists of partners that we've worked with through the years and those who want to join that are minority-owned businesses to make sure that we can procure resources and services from those entities. So I think we have a pretty robust purchasing program where we look at minority women-owned businesses and making sure that we're reinvesting in the community by making sure that we give preference to local communities that can provide the same services and goods.
And you have your own set goals as to a number that you want to reach per year in terms of how many MWBE?
We don't set quotas. It's not anything we've ever looked at because it's really about partnerships and long-term partnerships and finding those partnerships that are going to be long-lasting. So we don't set a set quota, but we certainly have a goal of making sure that we work with minority and women-owned businesses.
And we've, over the last 2 years, reached out to a number of these minority-owned businesses, both in helping on issues related to workforce training and obviously the more typical vendors, construction companies and such. So we have been we're supported by 17 faith leaders throughout New York City. And that was published in the Amsterdam News. All of them, we've made commitments to go out into their parishes and churches and recruit minority companies to work with us.
Yeah. You had mentioned that the casino would be the financial engine for all the things that you're proposing, and casinos have ups and downs. We've seen what's happened in Atlantic City and even Mohegan Sun. There's an indigenous museum that went through financial crisis. There's been ups and downs. So what happens to these services that you're going to provide the community if the casino has financial issues?
These services that I've outlined, whether it's the Community Investment Fund or others, they're guaranteed by contract. If we have to take a hit, we'll take a hit. Yeah, but we're not going to sacrifice those.
The only thing I'd add to that is we've been in business for 29 years. We've had the Great Recession. In fact, when we were going to open our phase 2 of our operation was about a week after 9/11 occurred. We obviously had a pivot. We've been through what people consider black swan events, like every 5 to 7 years, and we find a way to work through that. As Michael says, if we have to make commitments and use reserves or otherwise to make sure that we meet those commitments, we do. And I think that's what that binds us as a partnership, that we have the same commitment to our partnership and to the community that we're going to do those things. And things happen, things change, and you have to be prepared for those and be adaptable. And I think both our organizations are flexible enough to be able to deal with events that occur over the course of time, because you can never predict what's going to happen 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Could I very quickly just go back to housing just for a moment, sort of bring us into reverse? I saw the statistic about the number of MIH units within, was it the geography of CD6, I assume, yeah. Could you offer any other contextualization for what magnitude of affordable housing is being offered here as it relates to the local community or Manhattan as a whole? Similar projects of this stature or size, number of units, and
Well, my remarks were very clear. This would be the largest MIH ever done in the city.
in the city.
It would be. And we found, in our research, we found no recent MIH units in this community district. So it would be a very large investment of permanent affordability. When I first got started in the housing business in the 90s, sometimes people would do a 20-year commitment, they'd do an 80-20, and then 25 years later, the affordability would expire. We'd have a large amount of displacement of households because of it. So to have a commitment that 50% of the units are going to be permanently affordable, I think it's tremendous. And I don't think it's been done before in Manhattan.
And it's the applicant's viewpoint that is made possible because of the composition of economic activity on the site and otherwise would not be able to progress.
I think it's more typical to find the percentage of affordable housing in the commercial environment to be in the 26, 20%, 27% range rather than close to 50%.
And what was the original number of units in the 2008 plan?
So originally there were going to be, actually the plan that we presented, let me take a step back. As you all know, the casino, the hotel, and all the amenities, including the park, museum, food and beverage, that's as of right. We, the residences are not as of right, but we fall back on the original. Nonetheless, we offered to build more residences, but we went before the planning commission and they shot us down saying that if you are going to build more residences, you have to go through a new ULURP. And we are not in a position to do a new ULURP. I would love to be able to build more on that site.
Excuse me, you're saying that this current plan would have to go through a ULURP if you build more houses?
No, what I'm saying is when we took the plan to city planning, we had put in more housing than the 1,049, is it, units?
Yes.
1,049 units. We put in over 1,200, 1,300 units.
1,325.
And they came back to us and said, if you're going to do that, then you have to go through a new ULURP, and that they wouldn't do a ULURP because they were too busy. So we had to cut back the original plan in this plan. We had to cut it back.
And I'm sorry, I'm still confused because my understanding was that you didn't have to go through any city planning process at all with this plan if it's approved.
So we had to get a letter from them that we're in substantial compliance on the housing part. But we did not have to go through a ULURP unless we wanted to increase the number of housing units in this plan.
So this is the same, I think there were more housing units in the original.
Well, there were more buildings, so.
Right,
There was a third building.
Right,
right. So you're proposing less housing than the original plan that was approved by city planning?
The original plan had 3 residential units and a commercial unit.
Mm-hmm.
The commercial unit, we probably would have done a 50-story building. Probably, we proposed a 50. They probably would have had over 2,300 employees in that building. And that's why, in part, I say that the traffic under this plan is likely to be far less intrusive than the previous plan.
So, sorry, just don't mean to be dogged, but how many housing units were in the original approved plan then?
Vin,
Michael, in the prepared plans, new language design. So essentially in 2008, it was under the voluntary inclusionary housing program.
Right.
So there was no required affordable, it was optional. But as part of that proposal, there was about, the amount was around 440 units.
Okay.
Now, again, I think the clarity there is that it was not required. So essentially, under the 2008 proposal, the site could be developed as of right, which is full market rate. But as part of this proposal, we're providing, and the requirement under voluntary inclusionary housing is 20%.
Right.
We're providing 50%. So obviously that comes out to around 513 units. But there was a balancing act. We did not want to do 3 residential towers because we wanted to expand the open space.
Right, maximize the park, and there's other trade-offs.
The
I mean,
hotel.
obviously the hotel and, amount of jobs we're creating here as opposed to the other, and maximum
No, just trying
benefits.
to understand the original
Sure.
number of housing units. If you had built the extra, how many housing units would there have been?
The estimate was around 400, but
No, total, I'm sorry.
in total was around 1,996. But again, I think as part of the zoning requirement, it's based off of the percentage of floor area as compared to the actual housing units.
Thank you. But just to be clear about this.
Let me be clear, if you can convince city planning to allow us to build more, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, again, we'll ask them because it is sort of different than what we had understood was the case, that you could propose whatever you wanted to on this site and that it would not go through city planning. So we'll ask. Thank you. Do we have other questions?
Do any of the members have any other items for consideration at this point?
When will we discuss schedule? When is that?
Given the time for right now and just to, be appreciative of everyone's time so far, we can take that offline and then have a discussion that way.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we
Appreciate
really
your time.
We went over a little bit, I
Yeah.
apologize, but.
And we certainly look forward to working
But
with
look,
you.
even in between, if you want to, if you've got questions, we're happy to answer. And if you would like to come out and visit the site, as you know, we have an exhibit called Path to Liberty that which unites us on the site. You're welcome to do that. I'm sure you're welcome to visit Mohegan.
We'd love to host you at Mohegan or do as Michael did, show up anonymously and put us through our ringers and challenge our team members and challenge our guests. We think we deliver the best guest service in the industry, and that's what we focus on each and every day. And we'd love to have each and every one of you come out and just proper experience yourself.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.